in general, can you talk about 529 plans and some of those tax considerations when it comes to uh,
Yeah,
contribute, contributing the funds growth and then also use of those funds?
sure. So I'll sort of uh, do this in two different conversations. So the first one will be as it relates to federal taxes, federal income. So when you put money into a traditional or really any 529 plan, you're not getting a tax deduction for federal purposes. So you're using after-tax dollars
Mhm.
to fund a college 529 savings plan. The money grows tax-free within the plan. And if the money is used for qualified college educational expenses, tuition, room and board, mandatory fees, computer type of expenses, then you do not have to pay taxes at all on that distribution. So, let's say you put, $50,000 in over the years, and by the time your child goes off to college, it's worth $100,000. As long as you use that full $100,000 for those qualified expenses, you owe no income taxes whatsoever. So it's a great way to grow money tax deferred or tax free. And as long as it's used for college purposes, educational purposes, you don't have to pay taxes on it.
Mhm.
I should probably also add here with prepaid tuition plans, and this includes also the private college 529 plan, prepaid plans only cover tuition. You can't use that money for other expenses like room and board. Just
Yep.
it makes it clear. So that's also one of the advantages to having two different types of plans is if you're using one type of plan to cover tuition, you may want to have some other money in another plan to cover some of those other expenses. When you're
Right.
thinking. So let me pivot now to the potential benefits for state income taxes.
Mhm.
Not all states offer a deduction, but a lot of states do. And so this really depends on where you're at. And the rules can really vary. And I'll talk a little bit about, because I'm in New Jersey, I'm
Sure.
pretty familiar with New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York. And I'll use those as examples as to how different they can be among states. So here in New Jersey, until this year, there was no state tax deduction for putting money into the New Jersey plan. So I've never used and really ever been a big fan of the New Jersey plan because there weren't a lot of benefits. And quite frankly, there were better plans out there that were lower cost and I thought had investment options. And so I tended to not really recommend the New Jersey plan. Well, our New Jersey legislature passed some new laws last year. Starting this year, you can get up to a $10,000 tax deduction for married joint filers. I think it's 5,000, I believe. Don't quote me on that because it's all pretty new. But you can get a deduction, but there's an income limitation. You have to be, again, for married filers below $200,000 of income. If you make over that amount, you can't get the deduction. So we have a deduction now, is limited, and it's limited to your income. Let's take New York as an example. In New York, again, I'm going to use married filers here, so pardon me for the single filers out there. But in New York, you can deduct up to $10,000 a year if you're, a New York income, New York State income tax filer. But there's no income limitations, so that's kind of a nice thing. But again, the maximum deduction you get is $10,000. Now I'll give you Pennsylvania just to show you how wide the differences are. In Pennsylvania, and again, I'm going to use married here, each member of the married couple, if they both have enough income, they can deduct up to $16,000 per year per beneficiary.
Oh, wow.
From their Pennsylvania income taxes. So we have one client, for example, who they have two children, and both the husband and the wife work and they have income. So they're actually able to deduct this year $64,000 off their income taxes. So it's a fantastic thing, right? So it really depends on what your state offers and where you live, and you kind of have to check with your local taxing authorities. And if you have a tax preparer in your state, just go to them so you understand what the rules are. But there are state income tax benefits that could be fairly, they could add up depending on what state